Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope everybody's doing fantastic here. We have made it. It's a game week. Can't wait. We're knocking on the doorstep of the NFL season opening up. Goosies. Got some national fodder today with the Miami Dolphins. Everybody back from Labor Day, so a lot of takes flying around, hot and heavy. A couple of them came from NFL Network that I thought was weird. I mean, they're a lot of doubters on that panel. Who this is one of the things that's that annoys me about the way last season ended is because I really do feel in this position like, you know, you just kind of got to eat it, because I feel I'm trying to hold myself with restraint and not get crazy about it, because the Dolphins season ended the way that it did, and you really can't say anything until they go around and fix it. It's like Mike McDaniel says, you know, they got to change the narrative. And until that happens, it's really, there's not much you can do. You just kind of got to be in a fan. You got to sit back and listen to the carnival barking as the year goes by, and especially as the season rolls into this thing. It is a little bit weird how much belief there is in the Jets and an old quarterback who hasn't been good in 3 years, but you know, far be it from me to tell anybody how to hot take. There was a weird one, though, that came from Kyle Brandt, who is, you know, is on Good Morning Football, does the angry runs, stupid bit, but he had this take, which I've seen a clip around the Bill Simmons podcast surface around Dolphins Twitter about this, but I guess he kind of reiterated this today, where he was discussing Mike McDaniel, and he was basically saying that Mike McDaniel is not in the cool kids club of coaching. And I'll just let you hear what this Yahoo had to say. Here was Good Morning Football.
I think it's a Mike McDaniel conversation. Like, this is the guy who's going to get them there. And there's a cool kids club of young coaches right now that he should be in. For all he represents as an original personality, original perspective, great backstory, incredible future. Mike McDaniel should be a celebrated story in this league. The best coaches win playoff games. And typically, they do it by their third season. This is season 3 for Mike McDaniel. We have had 2 wild card losses. Guys, Dan Campbell, year 3, title game. Kyle Shanahan, year 3, Super Bowl. Zach Taylor, year 3, Super Bowl. Sean McVay, year 2, Super Bowl. Year 3, Mike. We love the eccentricities, the personality, and the ingenuity on offense. It's incredible. It's a couple wild card losses. You have Tua entering his prime. You have Tyreek, maybe in the last year of his prime. We don't know. You've got young players everywhere, and you, more importantly, are entering your prime. You're settled in. We are now over how you dress and how you talk. You're just part of the conversation. You're part of the family. But he is not part of the Cool Coaches Club, because the Cool Coaches Club, they don't just have fantasy seasons produced. They don't just have regular season wins produced. They win those huge January playoff games. And I don't beat up on McDaniel. I don't think he's overrated. I don't think he's certainly on the hot seat contractually. No, he's set. There's going to be a couple games that he should win. And honestly, like last year, it wasn't even close. The year before, the quarterback was hurt. I totally get it. This year, there's a no excuse year. If the Dolphins lose in the wild card round this year, it's a big eye roll. It's time.
It is one of these things that's funny, man. Like, this is a Miami team that's going to be this year. It does feel like they're going to have to go through it. You know, to my earlier point, like, people are going to look at them with a bit of a side eye throughout the year until they go, unless the Dolphins go out and they thump Buffalo a couple of times, they thump the Jets, they, you know, beat Houston, like they beat the teams that like everybody is really in love with, and you know, people seem to trust a little bit more. You're gonna hear a lot of this. This is going to be the takes that are going to infiltrate us all year long. I don't really agree with the idea, though, that Mike McDaniel is not in the cool kids club. I think, if anything, he's probably the most unique out of all of these guys. I don't think I've heard Zach Taylor ever speak. I don't really know what makes Zach Taylor part of the cool kids club other than having Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I mean, if anything, he looked to himself being a bit of a buffoon pretty recently, where he was saying that Jamar Chase was going to return to the football field to which Jamar Chase was not back on the football field. And I'm a little befuddled by that. Man Campbell is cool. Man Campbell's by the way, I love the new Applebee's commercial. Hilarious. Everybody's obsessed with Kyle Shanahan, but it wasn't so cool. He does keep getting to the Super Bowl, but when he does get to the Super Bowl, man, this guy, he poops the bed infinitely. And like Mike McDaniel was the right hand man of this guy. Sean McVay is an absolute phenom, but you got to be honest with yourself, Kyle Brandt. You're not going to sit here and say that Mike McDaniel's not cool. I mean, you could say that you're over the way that he dresses, but you're either really bothered by it because you can't pull it off, or you do think that it's cool and you wish that you could just be more comfortable in your own skin like Mike McDaniel is, which is very authentic and very him. That's just how he is. The way he dresses, the sunglasses, the shoes, the swagger that he rolls with. It's tremendous. And, you've had all of these, people around the league chirping because the Miami Dolphins motion is all over the place. His offense is ranked in a very high place. You guys can call it fantasy, but everybody's trying to, copy off of his test and try and get it right. And so, I just don't know why the other stuff is that. Yes, I think every Dolphin here is in full agreement. Dude, it's been a quarter century. Of course. No excuses this year. No bull bleep. He has exercised, getting his guy in as a coordinator now. He has the through line of communication throughout the whole organization, where there was a bit of a stonewall last year with Vic Fangio. And I think arguments can be made that Vic, kind of held it together with bubblegum and duct tape more so than the offense did when they were getting a little bit banged up. I'm not saying the Dolphins don't have things to prove. They obviously do. But I think that this attack on Mike McDaniel has been strange. And I do think that results are super important. Cheetah made the point where he's like, I think I saw on Twitter that most Dolphins coaches, when they get their extension, they're normally fired the next year. We're hoping to change that trend. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes these extensions are given out by Stephen Ross. There's no rhyme or reason to them. Like, I remember when Joe Philbin got his extension, we were all like, what? He gave Tony Sperano the extension basically as an I'm sorry for going after Jim Harbaugh. Adam Gase, everybody, thought he was the genius, even though he hated the own team that he was calling. But Mike McDaniel does have some things that are just way different than those other guys did. And I'm going to get into the flow thing here in just a second, because Stephen A. Smith had some, had some strange take today on First Take about Mike McDaniel. But the big thing with this is, yeah, he is a great communicator and he is a great manager of people. He does have to get better, and I think in certain spots, riding the hot hand in certain games. Does he get a little bit too cute? Does he not roll with the run game? Yeah, I think these are all fair things. It is his third year as a play caller. That's if it's a disaster this year, that's likely going to be the thing that's taken away from him, as like the that's the move off of a coach. If it doesn't go well this year, then they may say, hey, no, you're just a better manager of people than you are a caller of games. So we'll see. Could it be, done in a more concise way? These are the things that they're going to have to shut up and turn around on. But to say he's not cool, I mean, that's just disingenuous from Kyle Brandt. I mean, a guy who, like, if there was the last person in the media landscape that I would want advice on what is cool, I'm going to go with Kyle Brandt, the dude who does the angry runs, because you host a segment called Angry Runs. What about that speaks cool? I don't understand. Like, you are, that's the antithesis of cool. Intense, over the top. And you don't get Mike McDaniel's fashion. That's okay. I don't expect you to. I expect you to probably crush protein powder and, eat dumbbells. That's why you're probably more of a Man Campbell type of guy. But not cool. That's just not true. And then Stephen A. Smith, they talked about this today for like a good 20 minutes on First Take about the Mike McDaniel extension. And, I said I wasn't going to talk a lot about the Brian Flores thing anymore. I'm going to try and put a stop on that. But it is Stephen A. Smith, who I'm not against. I think Stephen A. Smith is one of the most talented media guys out there. I got nothing but respect for the climb that he's had, the platform that he's built. I love hearing him go over the top when he is at his best. It's tremendous. But when you are the top dog at ESPN, there is an expectation I think you are held to, and especially when you're going to come out and bring some takes. And he had this take today about Mike McDaniel. He said that he deserved the extension, but he was basically going on the take that he is upset that he feels it stinks that Brian Flores didn't necessarily get the shake that Mike McDaniel did. And also didn't get to do it with some of the weapons that Mike McDaniel did, even though he did. Anyway, here was Stephen A. on First Take today.
We want to talk and brag about how Mike McDaniel has done such a bang-up job, such a great job, but that's not what Brian Flores did. Well, I recall Brian Flores winning about 10 games in the season. I recall Brian Flores having Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, what he said, according to Tua, is inexcusable, egregious. It was beyond the pale. It crossed the line. And nobody's here to defend Brian Flores' behavior towards Tua Tagovailoa if those things were true. But the other side to this, guys, is this. Brian Flores didn't have Tyreek Hill. Brian Flores didn't have Jalen Waddle. I mean, we're talking like Brian Flores goes out the building, Mike McDaniel comes in the building, same identical scenario, but different results. That's not true. What would Brian Flores have done if he had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? What would he have done if he had those brothers? I'm just asking. Because, see, those are the kind of questions to me that are relevant. Because when we talk about Mike McDaniel, again, he deserves his contract extension, Shay. Just Saturday, he deserves it. I'm not trying to imply that he doesn't. But when we talk about him, like it's such an incredible upgrade from Brian Flores.
All right, so there you go. Stephen A. Smith today on First Take. He then would go on to talk about Tua's record in cold weather, which I didn't really see what was point of the argument. But he did say, like, Mike McDaniel deserves the extension. I do want to say, for the record, if you guys are unaware of history, Jalen Waddle's career started in 2021 when Brian Flores was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. He set a rookie record for the Miami Dolphins in receiving and had a good season. Actually had the most catches that he ever has had in his Dolphins career by a lot. He had 104 catches that season. If you want to add to see, look, yes, we all get it. Brian Flores did not. So let's just say, yes, we all get it. Brian Flores did not have Tyreek Hill. He did not have Tyreek Hill. The Dolphins did not trade for Tyreek Hill. They were in the midst of crafting their organization. They did draft a guy who was just extended, and so seems to be a pretty home run pick. Was very reliable as a player in his rookie year. Caught the ball a lot, over 1,000 yards, played 16 games. Pretty good season from Jalen Waddle. He was pretty effective. I would honestly say the bigger issue Brian Flores probably had that season, the season that it all kind of went to bleep for him in 2021, was the fact that he didn't have his quarterback. Is that when Tua was not there, they were mired in this crazy losing streak. And I understand where there's some weird games in there where, I understand, there's games in there that were disappointing, like Tua losing to the Tennessee Titans on the road, where it could have solidified themselves in the postseason. I'm not saying there wasn't poop jobs by Tua in there too, but this is the guy who named Jesse Davis a captain, and the dude got Tua's ribs broken week 2 of the season and sent everything to high hell. So, I think this is one of those things that's interesting. It's like, well, he didn't have these weapons. It's like, well, no, he also didn't have his starting quarterback at times. Now, maybe you want to say a quarterback that he very much disliked and apparently was berating via text, and in the midst of this season had some things that were like, I don't know if you're going to play you against the Ravens, and he has to come in off the bench. And, I remember that game very specifically because all of the talk going into that game, people in the home papers were writing about Lamar Jackson coming in. They were calling him the homecoming king. And, Tua ends up coming in and beating the Baltimore Ravens, which he would do again the next year. He did not do it this past year, and that was very unfortunate. But you're using this like, oh, what would happen if he didn't have Jalen Waddle? Like, dude, look, do I think Brian Flores, got the fairest of shakes? Yeah, there was definitely some claims to Brian Flores that seemed like it had some validity to it, especially if the Dolphins really were trying to get Sean Payton out from under him and, go back the Tom Brady route, and he had already stiffed Tom Brady once. So there were some things that stunk with the Brian Flores getting fired. However, things that have come to light afterwards about what a horrible manager of people that he was. It's a big part of the job. It's a big part of the job. And the way that you work with people and the way that you relate with people, we can sit here and say it's all about results and that it's all about the X's and O's and all this stuff. Yeah, but you like to work who you like to work with. Everybody, if they had the choice, and even if it's even Steven, you're going to pick somebody that you love working for, or you're going to pick somebody who you hate working for. If you work for somebody you hate working for, the results need to be like way higher. They don't need to be like even, it needs to be way higher. And so for Mike McDaniel to come in here, forget about the Tua thing. Just have the organization running smoother and being run the way Stephen Ross wants it to be run. There's value in that when you're a boss. There's value in that when you're running an organization. And if you have a coach who's never happy, doesn't like his players, doesn't like his coaching staff, doesn't like the general manager, is by the way, and not, it's not just Tua that he butted heads with. It's not just Tua that he butted heads with. So all of these things into the fold. Yeah. Was it fair based on, ending it on a winning season? Probably not. Did I think it was a rotten move to throw his record in his face? No. But let's be real about it. It is one of these things where, yeah, Mike McDaniel, the reason he gets the extension while Brian Flores gets fired is very much they like working with the guy. And he gets them equal results. Yes, he has Tyreek Hill. Brian Flores had Jalen Waddle too. And here's the other thing too. For Stephen A. Smith, who again, great respect for Stephen A. Love his show. Really do. Stephen A. Smith has been on the top of the ratings world for a very long time at First Take. King of debate, right? They had a very successful show with Max Kellerman. Very successful. Max Kellerman seemingly was doing a fine job, right? Nobody thought Max Kellerman was doing a bad job on First Take. But Stephen A. Smith was like, not my show. Don't love him. Sorry. Don't love the show with him. Was that fair to Max Kellerman? Was it? Max Kellerman was out there and he was, maybe getting the better of Stephen A. Smith on certain debate days. Some certain takes went viral and held more weight with people than Stephen A. Smith did. Did he feel like he was, was he too nuanced for a debate first show? Who knows? But Stephen A. Smith, as I agree, is the face of that show, one of the faces of that network. And he got rid of the dude. Gave him the old heave-ho. Was it fair? Were those fair results? The show was still kicking ass, but he didn't like working with him. So it's tough sometimes. It's a would it have been better if you pulled out all the stops and you had all these star guests and Max Kellerman was there? Was that fair? Nah, wasn't fair to Max Kellerman. Where is he? No one's heard of him. And the other thing with this, with McDaniel, like if you don't think that who you work with and the comfort of who you work with matters, then why'd you fire Max Kellerman? Like, this stuff matters. And now, Mike McDaniel, did he get the extension too fast? I think there's an argument for that from a performance standpoint. I think all these guys who got paid, like outside of Cheetah getting a bump in pay and just smartly paying Jalen Waddle, but the two faces of the franchise, Tua, Mike McDaniel, could Stephen Ross have come into this and said, nah, prove it? Sure he could have. But this guy, who has shown he's weird with extensions before, has a certain value and weight on workplace harmony. And this coach that he has is beloved by all his players, beloved by free agent star players who bring him in. And yeah, he's got a great rapport with his quarterback. Where the other one was trying to was there was this other point too where everybody keeps bringing up, oh, he never wanted to in the first place. All right, whether that was or whether that was the case, they tried looking at other. First of all, it wasn't like that was the first option they tried to go with. They tried to go and get you Tom Brady. You didn't want him. They tried to go get you Deshaun Watson. He was a creep. And, this whole idea, I just think that the whole, oh, I never wanted to draft him in the first place. I'm sorry, man. I still have a hard time wrapping my mind around that one with knowing that they did inquire about replacing him, the organization, and also knowing how much that GM really does try to placate to his coach and the owner. So, I don't know. And it's not like it was just Tua. It was Tua, Austin Jackson, Minkah Fitzpatrick wanted the hell off the team. And, even Christian Wilkins has talked about, like, not the greatest rookie experience for him. Not the greatest come up for him either. So, all these things are considered. I get it. The big point is, does Mike McDaniel deserve this extension right now? From a results standpoint, 11 wins last year, 9-8 the year beforehand, but 2 big losing streaks, not getting it done in the playoffs. Yeah, he needs to get it done with the playoffs. Duh. But the way the organization's been running and how happy everybody is over there, yeah, there's value in that. And I think anybody, even Stephen A. Stasher, when you're running a monster juggernaut like First Take or whatever endeavor he's trying to do, you want to work and trust with the people that you like and that you can count on and that you can communicate and be honest with. Because when things are struggling, is there going to be backstabbing, or are you guys going to hunker down together and do things together? So I don't know. I like, it's not a completely unreasonable thing to say, hey, poor Brian Flores. If he had Tyreek Hill, what would his results been? What would his results have been if he didn't spend $2 million on a left tackle and Jesse Davis and would have gotten to his ribs broken? What would that season have been? Who's to say, right? I don't know. Is some elements of what happened to Brian Flores a raw deal? I agree with that. But are there other elements of this job that he woefully underperformed at? I think he's admitted as much, has he not? He didn't deny what Tua said. Said he had a lot of reflecting to do. And for Mike McDaniel, all those elements he's taken care of. He's got to go get this done, though. I mean, yeah, I agree. That's quite obvious. This dude is now locked in till 2028. You get the fancy smancy boss dinner. You got to get it done. But this stuff's not going to shut up until, as Mike McDaniel says, if you want the narrative to change, you got to go out there and change the narrative. So I guess we're going to hear this all season. All season. I cannot wait for the games to start.